It is Wednesday night, which means it's time for UFC Strategy Show right here on Awesemo.com. Of course, that is the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. I am Jason Floyd. Hopefully everyone's having a good Wednesday evening. It is a pay-per-view week, which we got a nice little prize pool on Draftkings this week, Pete.
Yeah, man. A big prize pool, big fight, pretty interesting card. Super excited about the main event and co-main event, and can't wait to dive in.
Yeah, of course, we got two title fights that are going to be a part of this card here on Sunday morning over in Abu Dhabi. Saturday night, of course, here in the United States. So we are here this one to break it down. Of course, something we got to note is this is the first of 5 events over in Abu Dhabi, which means the big cage, which that was actually something that got brought to Israel Adesanya today. And he basically said, yeah, it doesn't matter whether we're 30 or 25 foot. Does not matter to me. But, of course, with 2 title fights, before we kind of break it down on the fights, we got to talk about with 2 title fights, how that goes into your roster construction. Because I think if you're a multiple lineup player, let's just say, for example, let's just say you're going to play 5 lineups, just 5 lineups. I believe one of those lineups, you fade both title fights.
Yeah, I think it's just like I'm so attracted to the title fights that I can't get away from them, but it definitely makes sense to avoid them. We've been on a recent stretch where the main event isn't necessarily optimal. I do think that one of them will be optimal, but I like what you're saying. Get away from them, be a little contrarian. I prefer the main event over the co-main event. I'm not sure if you would agree with me, but I think that the main event hosts 2 guys that have a decent finishing ability. It's going to be a very close contest, and I'll be targeting both, but I definitely can't wait for the main.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to be targeting these fights in a majority of the lines, but I think that if you're a multiple line player, I think you have to look at, because ownership is going to be very high on the main event, co-main event, because of 5 rounds. I think you got a good chance that the main event will probably hit the championship rounds, which is part of the reason why I really like Israel Adesanya that. But I mean, look, Paulo Costa's got that death punch that could end the fight at any moment. Of course, Reyes Blachowicz for the vacant light heavyweight title. So let's get right into this, Pete, right with the main event. Israel Adesanya and Paulo Costa. 8,500 on DK for Israel Adesanya, 7,700 for Costa, 21 for the champion, 19 for the challenger on Fanduel. Then over at Super Draft, 1.9 times for the champion and 2.2 times for the challenger. Lee already in the chat saying what a savage main event. I think a lot of people will agree with Lee in that one. Everyone's excited for this one.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think it's going to be a great matchup. Hopefully it's not a dud. I don't really see how it's going to be, because Paulo Costa brings the action and he really gets in your face. Kind of like how Mike Tyson used to in his career, and just throws bombs. 7,700, the value is crazy on Paulo Costa if you think that he can touch and knock out Israel Adesanya. Now, he'll have to overcome the reach disadvantage in this matchup. Adesanya has an 8-inch reach advantage, so that is quite significant. Adesanya is a big guy for the 185-pound weight class. He's 6'4". You won't see that height too much in that weight class, usually in the light heavyweight or heavyweight weight classes. I mean, he's got the frame of a light heavyweight. He really does. And, maybe after this fight, in a couple fights, he'll gradually move up into another weight class and grow in that weight class. But I'll be targeting both sides of this. I mean, I have a slight lean towards Adesanya, because I think that with the bigger cage, he can stay on the outside, pick Paulo Costa apart. Paulo Costa kind of telegraphs his shots a little bit, and you can see them coming. Now, granted, all you need is to get hit by one of them, get rocked and rattled, and next thing you know, Paulo Costa is jumping on you and throwing a barrage of punches to your body and head. He does not discriminate like most fighters just headhunt. So I'll definitely have Paulo Costa. He's one of my favorite underdogs on the card, and for good reason. Under 8K, you know what you're getting, 92% finish rate. I mean, come on. This fight is amazing. I'm slightly favoring Adesanya, though. The longer the fight goes, it definitely plays in his favor.
Yeah, no question about that. The salaries on DraftKings, very easy to put that in your lineup, even if you want to take the champion at 8,500. And obviously you mentioned a great point. If you're drafting Paulo Costa, you kind of know the path to victory, and ideally I think that you're hoping that knockout comes in the first or second round. You always talk about this point of like the third round is like the worst round that you want the stoppage to come in. over at FanDuel, the prices don't really scare me at all. I mean, I would say obviously I like Israel a little bit more over there at $21. But yeah, I like it. I think this is I will have a good amount of shares on both guys. I'll have more shares on Israel than I will Apollo, just because I just think he's a better fighter. You mentioned the point of his moving around. I think he'll just pick his shots, and to me it's I'm all about Israel in this matchup in terms of that. Of course, if you do have any questions for us on these fights, just line up there in chat. If it's a more of a general question, we'll get to those towards the end of the show. Of course, following us, by the way, will be NBA Live Before Lock, as they will get you ready for tonight's Celtics and Heat game. I've already got my lineups in for that game. Pete, I don't know if you already got advantage of putting your lineups in, and had to get my MLB lineups in a little earlier too, because DK's main start was 6:00 tonight, so I had to get those lineups in before we got going here. So tons to break down here in terms of this one. Of course, the other title fight, Reyes and Blachowicz, 9,000 for Dom Reyes, 7,200 for the Blachowicz. $22 on FanDuel for Dom Reyes, 17 for Jan Blachowicz, and then over at Super Draft, 1.75 times for Reyes, 2.35 times for Blachowicz. So I mentioned this on a podcast earlier today. If I said Jan Blachowicz has a 35% chance of winning this fight, am I too low?
No, I think you know, I think it's kind of right there. I mean, I think that Dom Reyes should go out there, and it's expected that he goes out there and gets it done. You're talking about a guy that arguably beat John Jones and put a good performance against him. He's 6'4", 205 pounds, slight reach disadvantage, which is kind of odd. Blachowicz does have the reach advantage here, 1 inch reach advantage. I just think that Dom Reyes' style, being a long southpaw, can cause a lot of problems for people. People don't understand that when you're facing a southpaw, which is a left-handed fighter, the angles of things are just different. It's a battle of footwork, trying to get your lead foot on the outside of their lead foot. When your lead foot's on the outside of their lead foot, it sets up your power side. So you'll see the battle of the lead foots here, lead feet. Blachowicz and Reyes, I just think that the length of Reyes is going to be able to just pick Blachowicz apart. Blachowicz is kind of just like always counted out, and I'm kind of counting him out here in this matchup, but he always surprises you. I mean, he knocks out Luke Rockhold. Overall in the UFC, he's 9-5. So he's had some rough patches. Also, have had some great performances. 7,200. If he wins, he'll probably bust the slate. But I really think that Reyes will get it done. He seems motivated, wants the belt. Seems like he got gypped in that John Jones fight. So I'm backing Reyes pretty heavily. I just don't know if it's the best DFS performance, but I can't imagine this going 5 rounds. I mean, it's tough to imagine a 205-pound fight going 5 rounds.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely am on Reyes in this matchup, but I'll sprinkle a lineup with Blachowicz here and there. You do got to pay $1 more on FanDuel for Reyes than you do on Adesanya. And I mean, you were talking about a week ago we had to pay $23 for Colby Covington. That did not work out, in terms of on FanDuel. So I think that's something to kind of consider this matchup. But what is the path to victory for Blachowicz?
I think Blachowicz is obviously getting inside, getting close. Now I know that he has a slight reach advantage, but like the style of Dom Reyes is longer than what it says on paper. So guys can have the best reach advantage in the world, but if they keep their hands glued to their chin, they're not really utilizing the reach advantage, especially if they don't get behind their jab. Blachowicz should look to get close, throw his tight, powerful hooks. Clinch fighting should be good here. But I really think that Reyes is just going to be a step ahead everywhere. I think that, he's a nice play. Blachowicz is tough, and everybody counts him out, and he comes through. Maybe he'll do it this time, but at 37 years old, I will back Dom Reyes.
Yeah, I like Dom Reyes in that matchup as well. One of the fights on the main card that has me the most interested is a flyweight matchup between Kai Kara France and Brandon Roybal. Kai Kara France 8,900 on DK, 7,300 for Roybal. Roybal $12 on FanDuel. Man, that roster construction can become a little easier. You want to put Brandon Roybal in there. $18 for Kai Kara France over on Super Draft, 1.75 times for France. and 2.35 times for Roybal. Of course, Roybal, stepped up on short notice earlier this year, took on Tim Elliott, ends up getting the second round victory in that one. He is now a full-time fighter. He put his notice in with his regular job right after that win against Tim Elliott. But break this one down for us.
Yeah, so Kai Kara France has a nice experience here at 4-1 in the UFC, coming off of Ultimate Fighter experience as well. 8,900 is a little rich for the style that he implements. A 125-pound weight class, not the best of finishes. He only has 57% finish rate in his entire career. In his 21 victories. Kai Kara France, he likes to throw bombs, and he's pretty explosive for the weight class. And leading up to his UFC, his UFC start, he was knocking and dropping a lot of people because he's just so powerful. Now, I feel like as time goes on, like the division, they're starting to, understand what he represents. And, it's kind of like a sprawl and brawl mentality. Decent takedown defense. I mean, I shouldn't say decent. He comes in at 90% on the stats, but Brandon Royval is going to be the bigger guy here, Jason, by 5 inches in height. Seems like the longer frame. And the thing with Brandon Roybal is the way he finishes fights. He's able to, search for crazy submissions. He's aggressive, and I've actually seen him work extensively on his striking. And he can kind of go tit for tat with most of the people in the division. It's not like he's terrible. Brandon Roybal comes in 91% finish rate out of 11 victories. My goodness, I think that is such a steal at 7,300. I do expect the large majority of people to think Kai Kara France just kind of punches his way to a decision, and easily could happen. I mean, I'll have a few with Kai Kara France, but I will definitely take my chances here against a kid that I really counted out against Tim Elliott. I thought Tim Elliott was going to just outwork him, and he was. But Brandon Royval never quit, and that was on short notice, and then he comes from behind and submits him. The kid has some of the best jiu-jitsu I've seen, especially in that division. So 7,300, I'm getting exposure to this fight a little bit more than the field.
One of the things I was talking to Tyson Nam yesterday, and we we were talking about his fight. He got the win last week, and obviously that fight was at 35 because of how that fight came together. But he said to me, he goes, I don't know if you really notice, 25-pound fights are having a higher finish rate. If you really look at it, and he kind of noted he really gave credit to the matchmaking that they really they figured out how to put the right matchups together, whatnot, and that's. I hadn't thought of it that way, Pete, but it was kind of an interesting thought hearing that from Tyson.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that Tyson's the anomaly here, and he's the one knocking a lot of people out, and he's definitely boosting the stats as far as the KOs for 125 pounders. But traditionally, the lighter the guys are, or the lighter the women are, the less finishes occur. But I think the small cage definitely has something to do with that. We're back in the big cage now, so perhaps it gets back to the speed decisions.
Great point made by Dylan over in the YouTube chat. He says Royval would make it easier to fit in Reyes and Adesanya. It's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, Roybal, it's not a super confident pick. It's a GPP pick for sure. So it's like one of the 7K options that I'm circling, that when he wins, he's going to win convincingly, win by, submission or finish. So it's definitely somebody I want exposure to.
Yeah, we hit on Damon Jackson last week. Look, for the first 10 minutes of that fight, I was like, oh man. He didn't score well. I want to say on DK it was like 58 points. It was a little higher on FanDuel, but especially on FanDuel at $9, it did help that roster construction outline was not in the optimal lineup, as it was kind of crazy. Chimaev and Covington were not in the optimal lineup, as I recall.
It was an interesting week. I mean, we hit on a lot of good points. Getting different is good, and if you find a lineup that you like, use it, because if you can be unique, you're seeing unique lineups take down the optimal all the time.
Yeah, it's that's what we're all searching for. By the way, we'll get to an optimal question here in a little bit, but let's talk about this female matchup between Caitlin Vieira and Sijara Eubanks. Eubanks 7,400, 8,800 on DK for Vieira, $15 for Vieira on FanDuel, $13 for Eubanks, and then 1.9 times on SuperDraft for Vieira and 2.2 times for Eubanks. The FanDuel salaries on this one as I was putting my sheet together, that kind of stuck out a little bit to me. You look at the props on this fight. Obviously, the betting public believes this fight will go all 15 minutes, but that FanDuel pricing, I think, is going to lead to this fight having some decent ownership.
Yeah, over on Fanduel, I have to agree. Sajara Eubanks coming off of a relatively quick performance, recent performance, I should say, against Julia Avila. So a lot of people counted her out on that, and a lot of people thought that she had no shot to win. But what she showed is that she has good boxing, great wrestling, good top control, and good advancement on the ground. So Sajara, again, at 7,400 is somebody that you could look to as a value play. But when I'm looking at this card, this is really like one of the fights I don't have much interest in because Caitlin Vieira is very good at 10-1. Sajara Eubanks is a lot better than 6-4. I mean, she's really good, and it's always been the gas tank concerns with her. And it seemed like last fight it kind of was fixed. She starts slow and then seems to fade as the fight goes on. It didn't really look like that. Maybe she was just super motivating against Julia Avila. But let me tell you, whenever you come off of a performance and you get back into the cage quickly, you really, really, really have an advantage over your opponent. And I don't think people understand that. Under the lights time or cage time or however you want to put it, when you have been in there routinely, it is such an advantage versus I don't care if Jason, you haven't been in a cage in 6 months, and I've been in there 3 times in the past 6 months.
Yeah.
I will have that comfortable feeling and I will feel at home in there. So I wouldn't discredit Sajara Eubanks at 7,400. Not the best finish rates for either one, but not really a fight I'm targeting, Jason. How about you?
I think it's a fight to potentially target on FanDuel
Yeah.
and potentially target Caitlin Vieira.
Mm,
Here's why. I think
okay.
Sajara Eubanks will be going for a lot of takedowns.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you might be able to rack up some points with takedown defenses.
yeah. It's not a bad point. I'm not really a FanDuel guy, and that strategy makes a lot of sense. I'm sure we'll
That,
get to
that
somebody else that would be sneaky on FanDuel too. That would be defending takedowns.
that's the thing on FanDuel. If you believe that one fighter is going to be going for a ton of takedowns, and then your fighter can stop the takedowns. Last week, who was it? They stopped like 9 takedown attempts. God, I can't think of who it was, but it was ultimately led to a huge score because of so many takedown defenses. So that's something on FanDuel. In terms of DraftKings, Vieira. I mean, look, here's you got to remember when Vieira was going that fight against Irene Aldana, that was a fight that the UFC was looking at as okay. Caitlin Vieira could be the next title challenger if she won that fight. It didn't happen that way. So I think that's something to play into, but to me, it's a little more of a FanDuel fight for me than it is a DraftKings fight. Now, I mentioned about there was a question about an optimal fight. I just want to make sure I get the person. I believe it was Samuel that asked it. Yeah. Samuel asked about is the Hakeem versus Zubara fight. Is that going to be a fight that ultimately ends up in the optimal? This is the 8,200, 8,000 fight. Hakeem is the 8,000 fighter on FanDuel. $16 for Hakeem, Zabara $17, and they're both 2.05 times. On Super Draft, though, what's your take on this one, Pete?
Gosh, I hate this price range. We know this. Tukagov, he's very talented. 4-1-1 in the UFC, going up against Hakeem Dawadu at 4-1. Not the best finish rates for either one of these guys. Tukagov, he'll strike enough, but really likes to implement takedowns. Goes for about 2.8 per 15 minutes. Doesn't really have the best, accuracy or doesn't land the best amount of takedowns. So lands about 50% of every one that he shoots, which isn't the best. Hakeem Dawadu comes in with, a really good takedown defense, 85%. If he can keep this fight on the feet, I think it's interesting because Tukagov he has like the skills and he has the height behind him, but under the lights, I haven't really been too impressed in the UFC. And I feel like a lot of people will just be attracted to the Russian fighter that, was hyped up. And, he could come in pretty heavily owned and thinking that Hakeem Dawadu is going to come in there and get smoked. I think that Hakeem is going to be a very, very tough challenge because he has a 5-inch reach advantage. That's a lot for a 145 pounder. He is the better finisher. And we already know that Tukagov most likely is not going to be able to get you out of there early. So, the longer the fight goes, maybe Dawadu is able to catch him with some shots or get him. And I do like Hakeem Dawadu at 8,000, a little bit more than Tukagov at 8,200. Tukagov's kind of disappointed me in the UFC, so that's kind of my take on the fight.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's going to be optimal or not, but just kind of they're looking at our ownership projections. They're not right now expected to be one of the top plays over there. But if you are wanting to get access to our ownership projections, a top fighter tool, and so much more, you got to sign up for an Awesemo Plus MMA weekly pass for $8.95. This gives you access to our fire projections, ownership projections, and the top fighters tool. There's never been a better time for MMA DFS. So step into the Octagon today, as of course, that is tools that Alex has there on the website. We use them every week and help developing our lineups, as we always say. Add Fantasy Cruncher to your account. That's going to help you out a ton in terms of that one. Next up is I know a guy that you're really interested in seeing here, and that's Brad Riddell taking on Alex De Silva. Riddell 9,200, 7,000 for Silva, $19 on FanDuel for Brad, $10 for Alex over Superdraft, 1.65 times for Brad, 2.4 for Alex.
Yeah, man, I can't wait for this fight. The reason I can't wait for this fight is probably going to be a striker's delight. Brad Riddell comes in at 9,200. He's an absolute savage out of City Kickboxing, which if people aren't familiar with, that's the same camp that Israel Adesanya, trains out of. That camp has been absolutely on fire for the past couple of years now, and people are really starting to take notice. De Silva's really tough. Comes in 21-2. Definitely holds the experience edge over Riddell and at 7K for a guy that finishes 95% of his wins. My goodness, he has to be on your radar. I do think that Brad Riddell will surprise some people and still get the victory here. I think that he hits too hard. I think he's too talented, and I think he's really starting to become a well-rounded mixed martial artist, and was really just a talented striker. And you're starting to see that talented strikers can really make a good splash in MMA if they can learn some really good
Mhm.
takedown defense and they're surround themselves with a good group of people. Obviously, City Kickboxing has figured out something, and they have some formula that works for that style of fighter. So I really like Brad Riddell here at 9,200. I know that De Silva is 21-2, but I still think that Riddell can. I really think that he could work towards a finish. I just see this guy as having so much potential in this division.
Obviously he's in that 9K range. Where's he kind of fit in your love in the 9K range?
I like him because, and it might be biased because I like to roster people that I want to watch fight. And I really want to watch him perform. And kind of if I'm like a fan of somebody, I'm definitely going to roster him. Now I'm not going to go crazy, but I mean this is a nice spot for him. Coming up against a guy that kind of disappointed in the UFC a little bit, only averaging 40.3 DraftKings points is De Silva. Um, I think that the opponent De Silva lost to, I think Riddell's better, and I think that Riddell can really just even his price tag, Jason. I think that he can do it.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. So he's $19. You got on FanDuel.
Yeah,
Dom Reyes is $22. Does he have a higher ceiling on FanDuel than Dom Reyes?
probably not. And the reason is because of the 5 rounds, but I don't think Ray is going to need 5 rounds. I think it's close. It's really close. There's probably some other 9K options we'll get to that I might be slightly hesitant on.
Yeah, I just think look, we're all trying to be contrarian. Any thoughts on taking a fire on De Silva?
He has finished 95% of his 21 victories. The guy knows how to do something, and he mixes and matches it with submission victories and TKO finishes. So it only takes one shot, Jason, and he probably has the grappling advantage over Riddell here. So if he gets it to the mat, he can make things interesting. It seems like that's his strategy, averaging 2.59 takedowns per 15 minutes, but only 57% accuracy. So he's another GPP guy with Brandon Roybal and Paulo Costa that I'm circling.
Next up, we got Diego Sanchez and Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews, 9,400 on DK, 6,800 for Diego Sanchez, $20 on FanDuel for Matthews, $8 for Diego. And then over on Superdraft, 1.5 times for Jake, 2.55 times for Diego Sanchez. I think really the question mark with this one is how does Jake Matthews pay off at 9,400?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think in 9,400 is a little too rich. That's that Chimaev category. I don't know if he's really at that. And I know it's so much of fading Diego Sanchez, but Diego Sanchez is legit, man. Let's like I know he's not what he used to be. He is 38 years old, but overall he's 30-12. Like that's a ridiculous record. He's seen everything, and his coaching staff and the way that he's coached is definitely unorthodox. But at the end of the day, he's a very, very strong grappler that can survive and is super tough. Never been submitted. Jake Matthews' strength is usually on the ground. He's an okay striker with some good pop. Has some vicious ground and pound and ground control. So you're thinking that he can put Sanchez or reverse a position that Sanchez has put him in and then really capitalize with some heavy ground and pound. It's possible. We've seen Joe Lozon, KO Diego Sanchez, and several people hurt and KO Diego Sanchez. That's definitely the route to victory. But 9,400, man, I just remember paying a lot. I don't remember the salaries, but I remember like when he fought Mickey Gall, and I thought Mickey Gall was, probably going to just destroy him because of, he's a younger guy and he seems like he can, beat up the weathered veteran. And it wasn't really the case. Jake Matthews is a hell of a lot better than Mickey Gall. Like, let's be real. But, at 26, you're really not, at your peak yet. So maybe this is a learning curve for him. But I still think Matthews gets it done. I really can't see Sanchez winning here. I just see him being so tough that 9,400 isn't really the play.
Jake Matthews, a 7.5 to 1 betting favorite in this fight. Of course, if you want to check out the betting odds, go to awesemo.com right there at the top of the screen. Click on the odds shopper as you can check out all these lines. So I'm looking at the prop bets on Diego Sanchez in this fight.
Oh boy, you want to make some money? What are we doing?
Diego Sanchez wins by TKO KO. Any guess?
Plus 1,200.
Almost double, bro.
Wow.
Plus 2,300.
The disrespect is real, man. The disrespect is real. Okay, hold on. Let me pull up Diego Sanchez's record because this might be taking it a little too far. Michael Chiesa wasn't able to finish him. Okay, so let's talk about his past performances.
Okay, hold on. You got to remember. All right, you got to remember before his stoppage, not the Michel Pereira, the stoppage before that. That was his first stoppage in, I believe, 12 years?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, the odds on that, prop bet of him getting a TKO is crazy. Michel Pereira, he won because of an illegal knee. He was getting destroyed, but guess what? Michel Pereira didn't put him away. Michael Chiesa, who is super tough and has some dominant grappling, was not able to finish him. He beat Mickey Gall. He beat Craig White. He was KO'd back-to-back by Matt Brown and Ally Quinta. Now, so my point is, the guys that are KO and a TKO in this guy are like some legitimate contenders or some legitimate talent, I should say. And Jake Matthews is, let's not be mistaken. But Diego sometimes just finds another gear and is able to keep pushing and tires out his opponent. And guess what? Now they're tired and they can't KO him. So I don't hate, the fact that this fight going to the distance.
Yeah, I'm not, I just don't like the output of Diego in terms of DFS. So to me, he's a guy I really have no interest in. By the way, Diego Sanchez wins by submission. Plus 2,500.
When's his last submission? Let me pull it up. I mean, a lot of people, when you think of Diego Sanchez, you just think of the Clay Guida fight, him going back and forth with crazy, crazy punching. But, I mean, back in 2004 was his last submission win, and that was on the Ultimate Fighter. He was submitting a lot of people on there because he has a great ground game. Now, it's possible, but I really don't see that happening either.
Samuel, we'll get to your question here right now. Appreciate you in the super chat. He goes, who's in the 20% ownership range you guys like on DK? So as I look at the 20% range, I would say Akeem Dawodu is the one that I would probably like the most in the 20% ownership range.
Yeah,
as I look at it right now.
Yeah, I think it's an upside play.
Yeah, definitely something to consider. But yeah, it's I don't know if I'll really touch much of. I don't know if I'll touch much of this fight in terms of Matthews and Sanchez.
I'll have a few with Matthews because I think that he is the A side of the fight. I mean, granted, we are talking about experience versus youth. Um, Father Time's undefeated, Jason Floyd's favorite quote, and it is true. But um, Sanchez has really, screwed me over in the past. So I think Matthews at 9,400, just be cautious.
Yeah, I think you gotta be cautious. I would probably say I'd have more interest on Matthews probably on FanDuel than I would on DK.
Yeah, I would
Um,
agree.
but yeah, but I mean Diego's tough, man. I mean, we can joke about Diego and his coach and all that, but the fact is this guy's a tough dude, and he is tough to finish.
Yeah, I still think that Jake Matthews on the scorecards will get it done, but it's like it's not a home run spot by any means.
Then we got Young versus Klein. Of course, Shane Young was supposed to take on Nate Landwehr. Nate pulled from the card due to COVID. We do not have any salaries for DK at this point. Young $17, $16 for Klein, 1.95 times on Super Draft for Young. Klein 2.1 times. And I know right before we started, you were talking about Klein a little bit here.
Yeah, I'll have to pay attention to this fight, and I'll have to see what DraftKings does. Shane Young's coming in with as a moderate favorite over Ludovic Klein. Ludovic Klein is on a pretty nice win streak, comes in at 16-2 overall. He's the number 2 featherweight in Eastern Europe. Whereas Shane Young is 13-4, comes from the city kickboxing area. So I would imagine that he's well prepared for this bout. Um, but I do think that of the city kickboxing guys on the card, he's probably my least favorite.
Mhm.
Comes in 77% finish rate. I think that Klein is a very aggressive striker. This should be a striking matchup. Klein throws a lot of head kicks, and I do think that he could set up a nice head kick win. That definitely has the experience, advantage in this one. Slight, but the UFC experience will be on Shane Young's behalf. It's a fight I'll definitely target and look at. I'll have to see how the weigh-ins are. Finishing advantage, 94% out of 16 victories for Klein. That is crazy. I'll have to see what DraftKings does, and then obviously we'll have to check out the weigh-ins, and you guys have to check us out on Saturday for Live Before Lock for our updated picks and rankings and everything. So a few things have to happen before we can really make a pick on this fight.
Yeah, by the way, Live Before Lock on Saturday will be at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 hour before the fight start. And by the way, just looking at the betting odds right now, Klein minus 115, Young minus 115. I think we're going to see Young 8,300 and Klein 7,900.
Let's see. I think that's a good guess.
Especially since we have no 8,300, 7,900 fight on
Yeah,
DK.
I was
I feel
I was like,
good.
where did he pull these numbers out? And then I'm looking at my sheet and I'm like, oh wow, real original, Jason. You just filling in the blanks.
Look, I look at the betting odds. Okay, all right, we're in that 8,200, 8,000 range. Let me look at my sheet here. We
Wow,
don't have an 83.79, so there we go.
really taking a chance right there, Jason. Uh, but
Man,
it's a fight. You
you
definitely
are
have to pay
hating tonight.
attention.
You are hating tonight,
It's all
man.
good, man. It's all good.
You're just trying to troll me. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing.
I got a lot of room to catch up to you. Okay.
That is very true. That is very true. Next up, we got a light heavyweight matchup, Knight versus Cammer. Of course, we're very familiar with William Knight, of course, up there, where you're at from the Northeast scene. He's 7,600, Alexa 8,600, of course, training partner of Stipe Miocic. $16 for William, Alexa $17, and then 2.2 times on Super Draft for William, and Alexi 1.9 times. This is gonna be an interesting one, especially in terms of the length that Alexa has in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's slight. He doesn't really have the best size advantage over William Knight, even though William Knight looks like he should be a weight class lower, and he'll argue with you that he does not want that to happen.
Oh,
Kamer comes
don't ask him that, bro.
in.
Do
Yeah,
not ask him that.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, he's getting wins here. I don't blame him. It's kind of like when Frankie Edgar was on top at 155 pounds. He's like, why would I ever go to 135? And you know, now he's there. But Alexa Kamer comes in 8,600, 6'1", 74 inch reach. William Knight comes in 7,600, 5'10", only 73-inch reach. So it's a slight reach disadvantage for William Knight. This fight is one that I'm really targeting because they're both guys coming off the Contender Series, really. I know Alexa Kamer is 1-0 in the UFC, but he's green. And so is William Knight. William Knight is green. And what I mean by that is relatively inexperienced. They're still put in bad positions. William Knight comes in with 100% finish rate at 8-1. Kamer's 83% finish rate at 6-0. And I think Kamer's going to be really popular. I really do, because guess what? We're all hearing Stipe Miocic's training partner. That's literally like why we're holding Kamer to such a high regard over William Knight. William Knight is a tough guy and seems to find a way to win at all costs. Contender Series gets put on his back, controlled all the time, gets out grappled a lot, ends up landing some crazy elbows against the cage, comfort behind victories of getting on top and ground and pound. So William Knight really is able to survive a lot and overcome adversity. So I'll have exposure to both sides. I do think that Kamer can keep it standing up and can be the sharper of the two, has the better gas tank, and probably the better overall game. Now, explosive William Knight is like a round one monster. In round one, I feel like at 7,600, he's another guy. I always, every card, Jason, pick 3 or 4 fighters under the 8K that I mix and match for a lot of my lineups, and it works out. Knight's going to be one of the guys that I'm going to mix and match.
Yeah, I would say I like Knight from a salary aspect in terms of roster construction, more on DK than I do FanDuel, because
Yeah.
FanDuel, they're essentially the same.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't bother on FanDuel on DraftKings. It's the value on Knight is insane. It really is. But how long are you gonna be able to get away with this? I put myself in bad positions. I put myself in bad positions. I'm losing a fight. Guess what? I have to pull out some heroic effort to get the victory. That works on the regional level. That works at the on the Contender Series. But now you're in the UFC. But guess what? He's facing a guy coming from the Contender Series who really isn't UFC proven. So I mean, it's literally a regional / Dana White Contender Series fight in the UFC.
Let's remember about that Contender Series fight William just had. Brunge is on his back, and the referee's telling him to work.
That's what I'm saying.
He's in a great position, and look, Cody's gas tank got the best of him that night. Yeah. But I'm also like, dude, referee, he is in a prime position. Like, why are you telling him to work?
The fight's hard enough, Jason. The last thing is you want to have somebody's back and the ref's telling you better work or I'm going to remove you from position. I'd be like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, I just worked so hard to get him here. But that's a totally different conversation. Officiating in MMA really needs to get fixed.
Yeah, that's something that's so it's a big topic and it's not going to get fixed overnight. Then we got a heavyweight matchup: Juan Espino taking on Jeff Hughes. Espino 9,100, first fight, and since the Ultimate Fighter season 28, taking on Jeff Hughes 7,100, $19 for Espino on FanDuel, $9 for Hughes, and then Juan 1.75 times on SuperDraft and 2.35 times on for Jeff. Obviously, we're very early in the week. Ownership is crazy high right now on Juan, especially on DraftKings. But does the 2-year layoff concern you?
Yeah, I mean, it does concern me. I think I always tend to favor fighters that have been in the octagon more frequently or lately. And Juan Espino coming off a layoff, it's got me slightly concerned, but nothing over the top because I've been forced to be sidelined for some time as well. And then I know what I have done while I'm on the sidelines. And I've been working a lot. I've been training a lot, working on my craft, training every day, waiting for the opportunity to come, healing up injuries. So perhaps that's why Juan Espino's been out of the octagon for a little bit. The one thing that's insane, Jason, is he's 1-0 in the UFC and he's 39 years old. Mm-hmm. What the heck? I thought that was a typo. I'm over here filling out the sheet, and I'm like, how is that right? How is that right? I mean, the guy's coming off of a great performance on The Ultimate Fighter, wins The Ultimate Fighter, then is 1-0 in the UFC, obviously from that. Has a great performance, scored 123 DraftKings points, which is insane, averages 8.3 takedowns per 15 minutes. My God, takedown city galore, takedown city. So Espino's our guy for takedown city, but Hughes is no joke and no slouch. And the guy comes in at 10-3-1, 0-2-1 in the UFC. it looks like a cupcake matchup, but it's going to be tough sledding. It really is because Jeff Hughes, before he came to the UFC, is like a guy that has a pretty overall game. Good, decent striker, decent wrestling, can hang with the best. If Espino gasses or Espino goes out there with a limited gas tank or limited strategy, you could see Hughes work towards possibly upsetting him here. But I think the chalk of the slate is Espino based on the 123 points that he accrued in his first performance.
And ownership projections right now to show that you mentioned about the points he scored in his official UFC debut. Landed 22 significant strikes, 2 takedowns, 2 submissions, 4 passes. That's how he got up to 123 points in that one. But yeah, the ownership right now definitely it is up there. We'll see how that goes on as the week goes on. Can you explain something to me? How a guy's 0-3 in the UFC. Hey, it's first fight of the night, so probably, I'll have very, very limited exposure to this. Are you taking a guy who's 0-3 in the UFC at $8,700?
Goodness, you might have to. And, it's a head scratcher for sure because what I like to do is I like to break down the fights. And then you start talking to me and you start trying to sneak what salaries people are. And I'm like, listen, Jason, be quiet. Don't tell me that yet. I'm doing my fight research. I'm checking out film. I don't need to be swayed one way or another because somebody looks juicy on the Draftkings. I check that last. And then when I'm filling out the sheet and I check him and it's 8,700, I said, goodness, really? Okay, so this is what the world has come to, where Ibrahimov is 8,700 when he's 0-3 in the UFC and has been brutally finished and really hasn't amounted to what the UFC had hoped when they signed him. I mean, let me pull up this guy's record. Coming into the UFC, he was pretty heralded as a guy that was going to do well. I mean, he was 7-0 with what 5 finishes. Like he gets rear naked chokes, he gets TKOs, comes in, gets finished by Da Moon Jung, who's very, very talented, loses a decision to Ed Herman, and then just gets absolutely obliterated by Roman Delize in 2 months ago. So how recovered is he? Well, why is he a favorite in this matchup, Jason? Because Marquez, relatively unknown guy. Like, what are we getting out of this guy? I mean, the guy does train at King's MMA. I only see footage of him hitting pads, doing the same damn combinations over and over and over. Doesn't even look that good doing it. Has fought people from the crowd, kind of like, Ibrahimov has. So you might need exposure to this fight, Jason. Like you really do. I think this is going to scream optimal because of how bad these guys are. And no disrespect, it's just the truth in this situation.
So you've got Danilo hasn't fought in over 2 years.
Yeah.
His last fight was February 18th, 2018.
It's my birthday.
So he lost a split decision back in 2017 on LFA against Myron Davis. Okay. So he's 7-2 at that point. You ready for this one? His next opponent record was 0-16.
Where are these guys at?
This guy is now 0-21.
Where are these guys at? I want to fight these guys, okay?
Brazil.
Yeah. Jason, get me some fights over there. I need to be lining these guys up because I need to get a pretty record. So, no, I mean, let's be real. The guy does have some finishing ability. Comes in with the finishing advantage in this situation. 89% finish rate out of his 9 victories. But, like, a lot of his opponents don't have what we call tapology pages and don't have, like, actual real records. And we talk about it all the time. These opponents really could just be smokers. And what I mean by that is like gym versus gym training against each other, sanctioned event, kind of in Brazil. All I know is this is a nightmare of a matchup. And Ibrahimov should win this fight. He should not lose this fight. But goodness, it does not make me feel comfortable at all.
Bro, when you're 0-16, at what point do you stop fighting?
Bro, I guess it's a paycheck, right? At least you know you're gonna make something.
At what point does there's got to be a commission that goes, yeah, we need to stop giving you fights.
Yeah. I mean, after a while, you're a liability, right? I mean, if you're just going out there and getting demolished, it's like, okay, well,
Yeah, it's crazy. Of course, be sure to check out all the content we have over at awesemo.com. Let you know right now here today on Wednesday, part of the free premium content on the site is NFL projections. So you got to check that out. Also, by the way, coming up right after us will be NBA Live Before Lock to get you ready for tonight's Celtics and Heat game. Also, be sure to be following Awesemo on social media. Like us on Instagram. We're putting up audio clips from shows up there. Also, like us on Facebook as well. Of course, all of our shows are available on the Awesemo Podcast Network. Just go to awesemo.com for the link. So if you cannot catch us live and maybe you want to listen to us on your way to work on a Thursday morning, you got to download the podcast right now. So be sure to check that out. But let's wrap up the last, 8 or 10 minutes of this show talking about some listener questions that have come in via the chat. Also, you can put those over in Slack as well. If you do have any question, as Legalized says, great sweater, Pete.
Hey, that's right. Thank you. Thank you. It's cold up here in New England, man. I'm tired of it. Like, I'm up here in New England. It's freezing. At night, we got summer, and now it feels like winter. So I'm kind of over already.
So as I look at my Apple Watch, that tells me the temperature is outside here in Tampa.
What are you at?
85 degrees.
Oh my God. Why am I gotta talk to my girlfriend. We have to move. I can't deal with this no more. I'm being serious.
Yeah. Let's get some questions in related to this fight card. Joshua says, how many times out of 10 does Diego win this fight?
2.
Yeah, that's kind of the number I was going with. Yeah.
It can happen, man. It really can, because how many people just quit in the octagon? And I don't mean it like that. I just mean like when you're getting hit a lot or you're getting outworked, a lot of times people break, and anybody can. Diego's a guy that just has crazy pace and definitely can break opponents.
Yeah, the problem is just what you've seen out of Diego over, and I just think I just don't see it as a DFS play.
Heck, no, I don't have any faith, man.
I get the taking the value there, but I just don't get it. Samuel's got a couple of questions. Top 2 upsets.
Oh gosh, I think Roybal for me would be one, and Dawadu would be the other.
Yeah, I mean Dawadu plus 105. I don't know if there's another one that really sticks out to me, but yeah, Roybal was the one that really kind of stuck out to me in terms of that one. Top 2 sleeper picks.
I think the Silva could be a sleeper pick. Granted, I like Riddell, but I'm just basing it off of his finishing ability. 95% finish rate out of 21 victories is insane. So definitely a GPP dart throw.
In terms of DFS, this would be more on DraftKings and Fanduel. Caitlin Vieira.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say.
I think she might be price-wise. She's nicer on Fanduel than she is DraftKings, but the ownership's kind of a little high on Fanduel with her, which really shouldn't be a surprise.
I'm just not doing it this week. I'm just not touching the fight.
It means it's going to be like 150 points for her.
What happened with Jessica Rose Clark, right? Is that who fought last week?
Yeah. It was Jessica Rose Clark that got all the takedown defenses.
Yeah, I mean,
she should have got bonus points for winning the fight twice.
Yeah, I mean, bad call leads to more fantasy points, and it happens all the time. I guess it's crazy.
I don't know if you saw after the fact. So her opponent, Sarah Alpar, was getting married in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And someone reporter asked her about it. She goes, "What a S question! Like, how do you bring that question up, man?" Oh,
yeah. Not her problem. Don't schedule a wedding.
Yeah,
a week or 2 after the fight. That's
exactly. Samuel wants to know. He goes, "I want to know which fighters are Pete most excited about."
Most excited about the main event for sure. I'm really excited about Dom Reyes. I think that he can go in there and put on a hell of a performance. Brad Riddell is probably going to be on the top of my list as well. Strikers, baby. You guys know I like strikers.
Yes, we definitely know that. Top 2 priority fights on the main card to target.
I don't have the main card opposed to the prelim card staring.
So it is Hakeem Zabara, Caitlin Sajara, France Roybal, and then the 2 title fights.
Okay, so what's the question?
What top 2 priority fights on the main card to target?
I would say naturally, I'd say the 2 5-round fights, but to be contrarian, I would say the main event and the Hakeem Zubaira fight.
Top 2 GPP fighters.
Um,
Didn't specify which slate though.
well, okay. I mean, if we're talking GPP guys, that could, if they win, it's going to be early. That would be William Knight. I would imagine that would be a guy that can definitely win early and kill it. And Brandon Royal can really do the same thing. Paulo Costa. I mean, let's talk about Paulo Costa. You know what he's going to do? He's going to get right in Israel's face, and I'm really worried if Israel gets hit because Kelvin Gastelum was able to hit Israel quite a bit. Granted, completely different style matchup, but definitely something to think about.
Top 2 cash fighters.
I like Adesanya and I like Reyes. I think that's 2 I'd plug in.
Jenkins says, "Cut the crap. Who's getting knocked out in this slate?"
I think Blachowicz is getting knocked out.
Yeah, I would definitely make it. I would definitely believe you in that one. I don't know why people think you have a man bun.
I don't know. I mean, that's my boy Aiden. Hey, I told him, I said I could not pull off a man bun. I don't have that much hair, but I even if I could do it, Jason, I wouldn't do it. Let's be real.
Your hair's coming back after doing the quarantine haircut.
Yeah, man, it's slowly coming back.
Espino, a top cash play.
I wouldn't say he's a top cash play because he's been out of the octagon a little bit. I think it's somewhat of a trap to expect a guy that's been away from the octagon, who's 39 years old, to come in and have instant success. Again, I would, be slightly hesitant on it. I'll definitely pull the trigger, but I would much rather pay Dom Reyes at 9,000. I know what I'm getting out of him in a 5-round matchup.
Dan says Paul's pressure cutting the cage off and constantly body shots. His volume is insane. People can't say Paul just needs one punch. Paul will run over Izzy in the second.
He doesn't need one punch. And, I talked about it. I said he doesn't discriminate, hits you in the head, hits you in the body. Every punch he throws is powerful. It's if Izzy can take the shot or not. But in order for Paulo Costa to do that, he has to get inside of an 8-inch reach disadvantage against a guy that has crazy volume, crazy angles, will touch you with his hands. He'll really just get you to feint and react to his hips, throw kicks. I mean, he has a variety of strikes that can keep you at bay. He'll keep switching stances on you. So Adesanya doesn't discriminate which stance he hits you from. So it's a really interesting matchup. Like I said, I cannot wait. If you feel strongly one way or another, that's cool. But I'm slightly leaning Adesanya.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is, and this got brought up today to Izzy, is he's constantly, people like discredit him. Like if you think about all of his UFC fights, it was always like, oh, he's going to start fighting elite competition. It's not going to happen. Then we saw what he did to Tavares, and he's just a guy that people count out more times than not. So, but I do understand the value there of Paulo Costa. We're going to finish on this one. Joshua says this is more about Diego Sanchez. Could you win with Sanchez if he doesn't get finished? His gas tank is always there.
Yeah, I mean, that's hoping that no 7K options really come through. When no 7K options come through and win, stacking fights makes sense. I wouldn't stack too many fights on this card. I probably wouldn't stack anything. I don't like stacking to begin with. But losing fighters can be in the optimal if they, reach a point, of course.
So I'm just looking at significant strikes landed for Diego Sanchez. The last time he landed north of 60 significant strikes in a fight, March 2nd, 2013.
Was that Clay Guida?
That was against Takanori Gomi.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I can't really get behind Sanchez right now and the weird things that he's doing, but I'll definitely give him credit and let him know that he's tough, and I do respect him.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes down. Of course, we'll be here on Saturday, 6 p.m. each time for Live Before Lock. So be sure to that show is all about answering your questions. Of course, keep it locked here to awesemo.com. Come up next is NBA Live Before Lock. So that is going to wrap it up for myself and Pete right here on the MMA Strategy Show, right here on awesemo.com.